You know, when it comes to WWE and just public figures in general, there's a lot of romanticizing over time, and a lot of context about certain things that happen in their careers and lifetimes gets washed away due to time. And I think that applies so much to Triple H's WWE career. As today I want to go into a little bit of depth of Triple H's career, bust some myths, tell some truths, and expose the lies. As I feel like over time, numerous things have been washed away from WWE history about it, and honestly I think it's about damn time that somebody tells the truth about Triple H's legacy as an in-ring performer.
I am the game. I'm going to be talking and saying absolutely nothing.
This guy coming out of retirement and beating you and then going back into retirement.
He did that, didn't he?
Yes.
He came out of retirement.
He was gone. Came back, you were his first match, and then he went back to leaving.
then he went away again. Yeah.
To stop you.
Yeah.
You gonna beat me up? You gonna fight me? You gonna punch me in the face? Or do you gotta go ask your wife permission first?
Now don't get me wrong, I think Triple H is a legend. There is no doubt about his place in WWE, scratch that, wrestling history as one of the greatest of all time, especially as a heel. Whether in DX, the McMahon-Helmsley regime, the Authority, Triple H has found ways to be a spiteful, hateful heel. And his resume of making babyfaces achieve some of their top moments throughout history is one of the reasons why he will go down as an all-time heel. Whether it was Shawn Michaels' last World Heavyweight Championship win, Daniel Bryan's coronation at WrestleMania 30, or Batista winning the world title in the main event of WrestleMania 21, all of those guys have Triple H to thank for putting them over and making that moment feel so special. And Triple H is more than just character work. When it comes to his in-ring ability, he could go. The list of great matches that Triple H has had over the course of his career is endless, whether it's with Mankind, The Rock, Stone Cold, The Undertaker, Daniel Bryan. Triple H has a catalog of great matches in his WWE career. And along with matches, Triple H has been a part of some of the greatest moments in WWE history. When he returned in Madison Square Garden after his quad injury, the place went nuts. Go back and watch that video. It is insane how loud the people were for Triple H that night. You can look at the moment he had with The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels in Hell in a Cell, the quote-unquote end of an era, which we all know is bullshit now in 2025. But that match featured arguably the greatest near fall in WWE history. Or you could even go further. The turn on Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam, when he hit him with the pedigree and Randy Orton cashed in Money in the Bank, that was one of the most shocking moments I had ever seen. Truly something that nobody saw coming, especially considering that Triple H had been a babyface for quite a long time at that point. Triple H throughout the course of his career proved that he could be a great wrestler in almost any role that you give him. He can do the comedy stuff, especially with DX. He can put guys over. He can be a great heel. He can lead a faction. He can cut promos. To put it frank, he had versatility, and that's all you want from a pro wrestler. Unfortunately though, as you guys noticed, I said almost, because no wrestler is perfect. Every wrestler has their flaws and things over the course of their career that they obviously should not have done or could have done better with. And that also applies obviously to Triple H. And here it gets into what I stated earlier in the video. The things that WWE romanticizes so much and they tend to throw away to the side the bad. The things that they know are not good for TV, they know are not good for his legacy, and fans just tend to forget completely. Let's start off with the obvious, the Triple H burial process. Now this is one of the things that even over the course of Triple H's career, people were talking about it, how Triple H just buries everybody. And I don't think that's completely true, but at the end of the day, there is still truth to every single stereotype and lie out there. And in this case, it isn't even a stereotype, it isn't even a lie, it's just the God honest truth. There are numerous instances of Triple H burying guys in favor of him just going over for the sake of going over. It really didn't make a lot of sense. It all started when you go to that Reign of Terror, because oh my God, what a horrible run for Monday Night Raw during that era. And I understand a lot of people love Evolution as they came on towards the middle and end of that run for Triple H, but holy shit, those Raws were insufferable to watch. It was essentially the same every single week. Triple H would come out, he would cut a promo to start the show. In the middle of the show, you have a bunch of Triple H backstage segments. At the end, he'd probably beat somebody up, or the occasional they get the one up on him, but you still see his face to end the show. It's insane how they just plastered him everywhere you looked during Raw around that time, which is a big reason why a lot of people tuned out and stopped watching the product, but we'll get to that later on because trust me, that is something that a lot of people just tend to forget with Triple H's legacy. But during that time, there were so many other guys that could have used the rub from Triple H to get over. A guy like Rob Van Dam, who was extremely popular at that time. Nope, lost to Triple H. Kane, who had a monster run around that time. Nope, lost to Triple H. And hell, I know wrestling fans have a very mixed opinion of Goldberg, but let's not act like he wasn't white hot over as fuck at one point in time. And when they had that chamber match, he was looking like the monster he should have been, eliminating every single person in the goddamn match until he met Triple H's sledgehammer at the end and lost. Sure, Goldberg ended up winning the title later on in the next match that they had, but the air was already popped out the balloon. You gotta strike while the iron is hot. And to make matters worse, that match sucked. Because not only could Goldberg not work past 5 minutes, but Triple H's work in the ring was suffering at the time because he was dealing with an injury which caused him to wear those stupid ass biker shorts. And let's not forget our dear old friend Booker T. Oh my goodness, what an atrocity of a situation was that Booker T versus Triple H feud. You got Triple H going out there on Monday Night Raw critiquing Booker T's appearance, talking about him having nappy hair, telling him to dance, all these racial obvious overtones, and then the horrible line of him saying guys like you don't win WWE championships. I don't want to hear that shit about it was a WCW reference. That was obviously a race thing. And don't get me wrong, I actually don't have an issue if you want to incorporate stuff like that into storylines, especially with Triple H being the hated heel that he was at the time. But if you're gonna do stuff like that, especially with Booker T just standing there, not even interrupting him in the middle of these promos, looking like a straight up buffoon, you at least gotta give him the win and have him shut up the heel and prove him wrong. But no, Triple H went full Hulk Hogan because
that doesn't work for me, brother.
as we all know, Booker T lost in one of the worst finishes ever. Because Triple H, I understand he protected that pedigree like death. I get it. But to beat him with one pedigree, and not only with one pedigree, but to then crawl for what felt like an eternity to get the pin, oh my god. Talk about making Booker T look like a fucking loser. That was the definition of a burial. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And Booker T, if it wasn't for the King Booker gimmick catching on the way that it did, his career would be remembered a whole lot differently. That run essentially saved him as a singles competitor. I'm not joking when I say that. But then you go to something that I truly think is even worse than the Booker T incident. What happened with CM Punk in 2011? I mean, my god, you talk about an ego trip that made absolutely no sense. CM Punk was white hot after the pipe bomb. And at that time, as we all know now, CM Punk was on his way out of the company. But that promo essentially breathed new life into the character, which led to him becoming a household name cemented for life at Money in the Bank in 2011, when he beat John Cena in the main event in his hometown Chicago and walked out with the championship. And you would think this company just found their next top babyface that could rival John Cena in years to come. And to be fair, they did, but it almost got completely squandered, as a lot of CM Punk's momentum went down the drain in the next coming months. As after he beat John Cena in the rematch at SummerSlam the next month, Alberto Del Rio comes out and cashes in the Money in the Bank contract on him after he gets attacked by, hold up, Kevin Nash? What the fuck is going on here? Punk was later transitioned to a feud with Kevin Nash of all people. He had some promos with Nash on TV as well as Triple H, and the match would end up getting canceled as due to Kevin Nash failing some kind of test with his health, he was unable to get medically cleared, so Triple H took his place in the Night of Champions pay-per-view to face CM Punk. The stipulation was simple: if CM Punk wins, Triple H is no longer the COO of WWE, which honestly should have been a tell-all that Triple H was going to win the match, because guess what happened? You guessed it, Triple H won the match. And I understand Triple H gave CM Punk the honor of taking 3 pedigrees to beat him, but I don't want to hear that bullshit, man. Triple H, before he even faced CM Punk, was basically semi-retired at that time. But lo and behold, CM Punk becomes the hottest thing in wrestling, and now Triple H wants to come out of retirement to face CM Punk out of nowhere? Y'all find that a coincidence? I think the fuck not. It was an obvious ego trip from a man who just wanted to take spotlight from somebody for the sake of taking spotlight from somebody. So let's get this straight. CM Punk beats John Cena at Money in the Bank, cements himself as your up-and-coming star and the hottest thing in wrestling, and then they proceed to take the title off him when he beats John Cena in the rematch the next month. He ate 3 jackknife power bombs from Kevin Nash on TV and never got his revenge, probably for the better, because who knows what that fucking match would have been. He gets jobbed out to Triple H, then he eats the pin from Alberto Del Rio in the triple threat Hell in a Cell match, and then he eats the pin from The Miz in a tag team match with Triple H as well. I truly don't know how that benefited CM Punk whatsoever, and I think it's really clear that they did all these detours because they wanted to get to a Triple H versus Kevin Nash match, a match that did eventually happen that absolutely nobody talks about. People don't even remember they had that fucking match. Punk would later go on to obviously still have success. Thankfully, he did end up winning the WWE Championship back, and you guys know the story for 34 days, but when he did leave the company, Punk expressed to Vince McMahon and Triple H to their faces the night that he walked out that he still resents Triple H for not putting him over the way he should have in 2011. And I completely understand, because that was absolutely the wrong thing to do. Because sure, Punk went on to still have success and be one of the best superstars they had in that era, and still is to this day, of course. But it truly is insane when you look at all the momentum he had at one point in that summer, and how in a couple months later, they almost completely killed his push. And it all started with Triple H doing that dumbass shit, burying him the way he did. And we can't act oblivious to the idea that Triple H, obviously being in the position he's in behind the scenes, married to the boss's daughter, and having that creative influence to get these matches changed, are not the reason why these matches are getting changed. And hey, maybe if I was in that position, I'd be a mark for myself too. But at the end of the day, it's bad TV, and it's not helping anybody get over. It's just helping you. And there are other scenarios where Triple H definitely won matches that he had no business winning, but I think I've proven my point with the examples that I've given. But it isn't just about burying guys that is a part of Triple H's legacy that WWE washes away. It's also this idea that Triple H was on the level of certain guys in history that he truly didn't ever compare to. Triple H was never as over as guys like The Rock. He was never as over as guys like Stone Cold or Shawn Michaels. But leave it to WWE and some of the fans to make it seem like he actually was. Triple H was never ever the most over guy in WWE. That is just a complete fallacy. When you look at the Attitude Era, it was defined by 2 top guys, Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. Everything else was built around them. And don't get me wrong, Triple H had a part to play. I'm not denying that whatsoever. But when you look at that era in WWE history, there were guys like Stone Cold, The Rock, and Undertaker that were levels above him in and out the ring. Hell, you could even say guys like Mankind and Kane offered more to WWE at that point. The real reason Triple H at times was in the main event spotlight around that time was due to the fact that he made friends with the right people. It's just that simple. And to all fairness in Triple H, he improved. Earlier in the 2000s, Triple H got better, and there were points in time where he and The Rock were carrying the company. And honestly, nobody even realized how much they missed Triple H until he came back from that quad injury in 2001. As I said earlier, that is one of the greatest returns in WWE history. And the fact of the matter is, Triple H as an individual character, when you remove all the factions and shit from him, especially as a babyface, is very uninteresting. That's why when you look at his career, it's very clear that he went out of his way, and the company went out of their way, to put him in groups and factions consistently so he could stay relevant and be over. And that's not just something that happened like in the middle of his prime, that has happened his entire career. When you go back to the beginning of Triple H's career and when he started getting that real push, they tried out Triple H with a couple of managers. First, he had Mr. Perfect for a little bit. Then he had Curtis Hughes for a little bit. A lot of people may not even remember that. But due to injuries and just bad chemistry with Mr. Hughes, it just didn't work out. And then guess who showed up? China. And everything changed for Triple H. And a lot of people may not even remember this or even want to remember this, but China at one point was more over than Triple H was. Fans were coming to the shows, and when she popped up on TV with Triple H, they wanted to see China. They didn't want to see him. They wanted to see her beat up some dudes. And then what happens after China? They make D-Generation X. He then transitions to the McMahon-Helmsley regime with Stephanie. And then when Triple H comes back from the quad injury, yes, he was extremely over. Do not get me wrong. But please tell me, what are the memorable moments from Triple H's babyface run after he came back? Because even when he won the Rumble and then faced Chris Jericho in the main event of WrestleMania, that match was boring. The fans were obviously super gassed from Hogan versus Rock, and they didn't give a single fuck about it. Triple H then goes to SmackDown, and after a couple of months, guess what happens? He drops the title to Nostalgia Run Hulk Hogan. You wanna know why they did that? No, it wasn't because Hulk Hogan was crazy over at the time, which yes, was true, but it was because babyface Triple H, with no Shawn Michaels, no Chyna, no DX, Stephanie McMahon behind him, was boring as fuck. Nobody gave a shit about Triple H, and I'll prove it to you, because there's no way if a guy like John Cena, Stone Cold, The Rock, in their prime as the top babyface, in that position as champion of the company, would ever get replaced by an old Hulk Hogan and lose. You can't even picture something like that. And to further prove my point, he then goes back to Raw, and what do they try to do? Bring back DX. Now obviously that was just a tease as he turned on Shawn Michaels going heel finally, but there was a reason for that, because that babyface run was pretty bland and boring. And what happens shortly after he turns heel? Eric Bischoff literally hands him the World Heavyweight Championship, and immediately he's paired with who? Ric Flair. And if you're not over with Ric Flair in your corner, then there's something wrong with you. Triple H ain't that bad, alright? And about a year later, guess what else happens? Evolution. And don't get me wrong, that group definitely made stars out of Randy Orton and Batista. But let's not act like Triple H didn't know that having these two guys to feud with after the group was disbanded wasn't gonna be beneficial for him. But by then, Triple H was pretty much a made guy. But later on still, Triple H was involved in some more factions. They brought back DX around like 2006. Then they brought it back again in like 2009. And after that, he was basically a part-timer. And even then, he still was with the Authority later on, which is really the separator between guys like The Rock, Stone Cold, Mankind, Undertaker, and someone like Triple H. Those guys for the most part organically got over as singles wrestlers and in a faction. It didn't matter which one they were. Triple H usually always needed somebody else in his corner for him to be maximized as the best he can be. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think when we're talking about somebody's career and legacy, that is something very important to mention. Because when we're having these all-time conversations, and I'm seeing people put Triple H as high as in the top 10, top 5 with guys like Austin, Flair, The Rock, Cena, I just shake my head because there's such a misrepresentation of his career that it gets so nasty the conversations he gets elevated to that he has no business being a part of. Because at the end of the day, I'm not saying Triple H was a bad wrestler. I'm not saying Triple H is not a legend, but I think there is a clear spot for Triple H in these all-time discussions that does not include him being put as high as in the GOAT convo or Mount Rushmore or top 10, because all those guys usually carried companies on their backs as the top guy. Triple H simply was never capable of doing that, as even when you go back to his reign of terror over Monday Night Raw, the numbers were plummeting around that era. And for those who don't know, there's even a story about Vince McMahon sending Pat Patterson out to do a report on why the Raw numbers around that time were doing so poorly. And Pat Patterson came back and literally told Vince McMahon, bruh, it's Triple H. He's way too dominant on all these shows, and because of how nobody is literally getting over other than him, it's ruining the product on Monday Night Raw. And by the way, shout out to the SmackDown 6, because WWE would have lost even more watchers if they weren't killing it over there at the time. The fact of the matter is, I look at Triple H very similar to how I look at Edge. They're both insanely all-time great heels, and they had matches with guys who were the top guy, with guys like The Rock, guys like John Cena, guys like Jeff Hardy. Whoever the most over babyface was at the time, if you throw them in there with the program of a guy like Triple H or Edge's caliber, especially with the heel work they're gonna do, that babyface is gonna come out with such an all-time great moment because they're that good at getting those guys over. And that's how you lead to a moment like Jeff Hardy winning the WWE Championship, or Batista's World Championship win at WrestleMania 21 in the main event. I think a lot of people even forget that WrestleMania 21 show was not like some star-studded show. It was very built upon the back of the story of Triple H versus Batista. That was a story that played out for a very long time over the course of months. And gradually the fans saw that Triple H was using Batista, and Batista eventually became this white hot babyface because of it and went on to have one of the best careers of his era. That's the kind of guy that Triple H really was in his career. Not somebody like The Rock or Stone Cold or a face of the company at one point. He was never that. But because you got idiots out there who can't see anything beyond the fact that he's got 14 championship wins, they equate it to like a real sport when in reality it's just a number. Quantity does not equal quality. Now I know a lot of people are gonna hear what I just said in this video and think I am just a Triple H hater. No, I'm a truther. I acknowledge all of the positive and I acknowledge all of the negative. The only reason I really harped on the negative in this video is because it's just the truth about his career that the company doesn't want you to know. And for good reason. I mean, the guy is the head of creative. He's running the damn company, for Christ's sake. And if Triple H's ego is anything like his ego back in the day, then I'm sure he doesn't want us to remember this shit either. But I want to know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Do you believe that Triple H had an overrated career? Do you think I'm hating? Do you think he had an underrated career? Where do you rank Triple H all time? Let me know. I'm very interested to see what y'all say. Y'all stay safe and have a blessed day. I'm out. Peace.